Hey guys, it's Viejo here, and we are into the last couple days of November in 2023. It's kind of a drizzly day here on the central coast of California. It's good to see you guys again. I got most of the bandages and glue and stuff off of my lip there that was all messed up. Looks like I need to blow my nose, but that's not it. Still got a little bit of scabbage to get out of there, but it'll be cleared up in another week, I think. But anyway, hey, today we're going to do some loading on the Dillon 550C over here. And I know that there's several of you out there who are currently using Lee presses and have been, wondering, hey, if I decide to make a lateral shift over to the Dillon machine, do I have to go get all Dillon gear, dies and powder measures and all that kind of stuff that goes with it? And the answer is no. You can use your Lee gear, and so that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to be loading some 380. Now I've got a tool head all set up for 380, using a mix of dies, but I also have the Dillon powder measure, and these things are expensive. Okay, they're not cheap. And if you can avoid that, if you've got Lee gear already, like the Lee Auto Drum powder measure, and a nice 4-die set of Lee dies, then including the powder measure die that's in there, the powder through, you're good to go. All you've got to have is a tool head, okay, that probably comes with the machine anyway, depending on whether you buy it used or new or whatever. So let's talk about that for just a second, then we'll get into reloading. But if all you wanted to know is, can you use Lee gear? Yeah, you can. We're going to use all of this stuff, and we're going to make some ammo with it today. All right. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm just going to kind of show you the setup and the finished product. I will put a little more extensive version over on the Rumble channel if you want to watch me actually doing the reloading, but I'm not going to reload here on YouTube. And you guys know how to find me over there by now. So what's the story here? Well, as I said, we're going to use all Lee gear, which you can do, but let's say you go ahead and pick up a 550C press. That's the newest edition of that 550. There's a couple things that you still have to have that are from Dillon. So you've got to have a shell plate, okay, which looks kind of like shell plates from other types of progressive presses, huh? And so the 550 is a 4-station press, and you need these little locator buttons. The conversion kit, as this thing is called, also comes with a powder through expander die, similar to the one that Lee uses, but the Lee one won't fit with this powder measure. Okay, well, if you've got this powder measure and this kit, then you don't need that powder funnel. And that can save you a lot of money, because you can buy the shell plate and the locator buttons and even this little box from Dillon direct, or if you can find another reseller, you can get those 3 things, the shell plate, the buttons, and the box for about half of what the total price would be for what's called the conversion kit that includes that powder through funnel, which you probably don't need. Okay, and this is also going to let you avoid the high price of that piece of gear right there too. And no, don't get me wrong, this is a great powder measure and they work, but so does this one with many of the powders that we use. And those of you who've been using this know we have leakage with very fine powders, and so does this one. Okay, so let's think about this a little bit. I've got some plated bullets for 380 ACP that I'm going to load, because I got a whole bunch of them and I got them really cheap. These are going to be Acura bullets. I'll show you the setup here in a second, but boy, they had them on sale for like a nickel a piece. 400 grain 380 bullets, really cheap. It's almost not worth it to cast your own for that price. So that's what I'm going to use today. And let's kind of go ahead and get into the components that I'm going to use and we'll show you the setup of the tool head and so forth. All right, let's go. I had bought during the pandemic some of this SIG pre-primed brass. And so we're going to use what I have left of that. I think I'd only bought 100 cases and I used 50 of them. This brass is real thick and it doesn't play well for that reason with my cast bullets. It just kind of makes the hole round a little bit wider diameter than my dies like. So we're going to load today with some Acura 380 bullets. Okay, these are 100 grain plated bullets. All right, here's what we're going to use then. Here's our nice set of Lee Deluxe pistol dies. Okay, and this is a brand new set that I've kind of had back in the storage cart over there, and I haven't used this set yet. But this deluxe set comes with the Lee factory crimp die, which is nice, and we're going to use that. So we're going to use everything here. Okay, we're going to use a Lee auto drum powder measure. And this is one of the older Lee hoppers. I like it because of that top, the lid on there. Some of you may be more familiar with this newer one that goes on there, but there's no lid on it. And you know, we did a video here on a makeshift lid for that by cutting that bottom off of there, but I prefer to have that cap. You're also still going to need to have, obviously, a Dillon tool head for this, and you'll need the 380 ACP conversion kit, okay, with the pins. Now those pins I have some aftermarket tabs on to, just helps me move them in and out of the shell holder. Okay. All right, so let's get our tool head assembled and get it on the machine, and we'll get moving here. If you find yourself in a position where you need to buy a tool head, I recommend these aftermarket ones from Jofer USA. Okay, you can see it right down there in the title down below there at the bottom of the screen. Okay, they're less expensive than the Dillon issued ones, and you can get them engraved for just a couple extra bucks, and you're still coming in at a lower price than the Dillon tool heads, and they work fine. When we screw the Lee factory crimp die that came with that set all the way down until it touches the shell plate, we have very little thread left up here to catch that lock nut. So what we do in this case is to put the lock nut, rather than on top, is we screw it in underneath, and as you can see, there's room under there on those threads, so we can catch plenty of threads under there. Here is a Dillon lock nut sitting on top of a Lee lock nut, and if you look closely, the points on that hexagonal Dillon nut represent a slightly smaller diameter than the teeth on that Lee nut. And that makes the Lee nut extend a little bit too far over this edge right here. And they tend to rub on the casting slot where the tool head goes, whereas our Dillon lock nut, being just a little bit narrow, is not going to catch. So if you look up underneath here, when this lock nut is tightened down, it may engage the side of this casting right there. So you can try it and see if it'll work on your press. Castings may all be a little bit different, but the Dillon lock nut's got more clearance over there. All right, as we mentioned, you may find it necessary to use lock rings other than Lee lock rings. You'll have to try that yourself. And sometimes we have to put lock rings on the bottom side here because the dies themselves are too short. They don't have enough thread to get all the way down to the shell plate. So that's for you to do by trial and error and figure out what's going to work for you there. But at this point, I've got everything all set up here with Lee dies and Lee lock rings. Okay, even though that SIG brass is supposedly sized. We're going to go ahead and run it through the sizer die anyway. That will help keep that shell plate balanced all the way around. And you'll notice that I have pulled the decapping pin out of there because that brass is already primed. Okay, so we've got that going. We've got the Lee 380 ACP expander, the powder through expander installed in the powder die, okay, along with the Lee auto drum powder measure. Got a Lee seeder and the Lee factory crimp die over here, okay? And those are all properly installed at the moment. And so I'm going to get the powder, some powder into that measure, and we'll get the powder level adjust. We're going to look for 3 grains of Vitavari N320 powder. It's a load that I've used successfully with this bullet in the past. All right, folks, there we go. I thought I had 50 of those cases, but I had 49. I don't know what happened to that last one. I didn't even count, I guess. I don't know. I did something, dummy round maybe someplace along the line. Who knows? Anyway, so we got those guys all loaded up, ready to go. Did them all on the Dillon press, but using Lee gear. So yeah, that's an absolute yes. You can do Dillon work with Lee gear. All right. Again, very much you're able to use Lee dies or any other, die set for that matter. I picked Lee because, Lee's got a nice powder measure, this auto drum, that works really well here. It's a little different process than what the Dillon does. They've got the fail-safe rod and so forth, but everything else is going to be fine. You got to come up with your caliber conversion set, at least the shell plate and the locator pins, and those locator pins are specific to caliber. There's some of them that will work with multiple calibers, but there's a chart that I think actually comes with the press, but you can go to dillonprecision.com and find the correct buttons for the caliber you want to use. There were a couple of caveats. We said that sometimes these dies don't go down far enough to contact the shell plate where we need to, and still leave room up here for a die lock ring. So you might have to put your lock rings underneath. And some die lock rings may extend past the width of the tool head and cause some interference. So you might have to use a narrower die lock ring. I use the Dillon ones there because they're the kind of the smallest and thinnest. And the Dillon die lock rings are available separately also, but you probably got some that work. I ended up with this 380 set and was able to make them all work with the lock rings on top, okay, for that particular caliber. Okay, hope you got something out of that. That was a fun little short project for me. I got those SIG pre-primed brass loaded up and ready to go shoot, get rid of them. I'm not a fan of those things. But anyway, we got her done, and I think we'll close it out here. So from the Viejo bench, for now, that's all she wrote.